This happened about 2 years ago when I was living alone in a ground floor apartment on the outskirts of town. It wasn't the worst area, but definitely not the kind of place you wanted to be careless. Still, rent was cheap, and it was what I could afford. It was a Thursday night. I had just gotten home from work, dead tired, made myself something easy for dinner, and crashed on the couch watching TV. At some point, I must have dozed off, because the next thing I remember is waking up to the sound of knocking. It was late. Checked my phone, 12:13 a.m. The knock came again. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Not loud, but steady enough to make my skin crawl. I stayed frozen for a second, trying to make sense of it. I wasn't expecting anyone. Nobody should have been knocking at that hour. Quietly, I slipped off the couch and crept toward the front door. Our peephole was one of those tiny ones where you can barely see anything, but when I looked through it, I could clearly make out a man standing there. He looked mid-40s, wearing jeans and a jacket. Not dirty, not obviously messed up, but something about him immediately felt wrong. He wasn't facing the door fully, just standing slightly off-center, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds like he was checking if anyone was watching him. Then he spoke, loud enough for me to hear through the door. "Maintenance. There's been a water leak. Need to check your pipes." I knew instantly it was a lie. Maintenance never comes after 5 p.m., let alone past midnight. Plus, he wasn't carrying anything. No clipboard, no tool bag, nothing that made him look legit. I stayed dead silent, didn't move, didn't respond. After a minute, he knocked again, harder this time. Then I watched through the peephole as he tried the handle, twisting it back and forth aggressively. It was locked, but the sound of metal scraping made my heart hammer against my chest. Still, I stayed completely still. In my mind, I thought, if he knows someone's in here, this gets worse. If he thinks it's empty, maybe he'll give up. After maybe another 30 seconds, he stopped. Walked a few steps away from the door. I thought it was over, until I heard the faint sound of footsteps moving around the side of my apartment. My back door. It was a sliding glass door, easier to break into than the front. I didn't waste time. Ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and called 911. While I was on the line with the dispatcher, I heard a loud, heavy thud against the glass. He was trying to break it. The dispatcher told me to stay hidden, stay quiet, and that officers were already en route. Those 10 minutes felt like an hour. I sat there in the dark, clutching the phone, listening to the sounds of this guy trying different ways to get inside. By the time I saw the red and blue lights flashing outside, he was gone. Police found a crowbar near the back patio and shoe prints leading off into the woods behind the complex. They never caught him. After that, I moved. Top floor apartment, double locks, alarm system. I still get nervous if I hear knocking after dark. A few years ago, I was driving back from a friend's house around 2 a.m. It was one of those nights where you're exhausted but also just unsettled for no real reason, the kind where you keep checking your mirrors a little too often. I live in a rural part of Pennsylvania, and that night I decided to take the back roads to save time. They're faster, but once you get a few miles off the main highways, you realize how isolating it is. Just dark stretches of cracked asphalt, dense woods pressing in from both sides, and the occasional flicker of an old beat-up mailbox. Around the halfway point of my trip, my gaslight came on. At first, I wasn't worried. I figured I'd hit a station in the next town. But town after town was just dark and shuttered. It must have been 45 minutes of nothing before I spotted this rundown gas station sitting off the side of Route 9. The place looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. Rusted metal roof, a single overhead light strobing like it was on its last leg. Still, I didn't have much choice. I pulled in. There weren't any cars at the pumps. The store inside looked closed, lights off except for a faint blue glow from a vending machine near the back. I got out, kept my engine running, and tried the pump. Dead. Card reader wasn't even lit. That's when I noticed someone standing by the entrance to the store. At first, I thought it was an employee on a smoke break. But he wasn't smoking, wasn't doing anything, just standing perfectly still, facing me. I hesitated, called out, asking if the station was open. He didn't respond. Instead, he started slowly walking toward me. No urgency, no friendliness, just this slow, deliberate pace like he was sizing me up. That's when my instincts kicked in. I got back in my car, slammed the locks, and started backing out. As I did, I caught something in the corner of my eye. Two more men stepping out from behind the building. One was holding something, couldn't tell if it was a crowbar or just a metal pipe. I didn't even bother looking back. I punched the gas and tore out of that lot like my life depended on it. And honestly, it probably did. About 15 minutes down the road, running on fumes, I found another gas station. This one actually lit, with other cars around. I filled up while constantly checking over my shoulder. Inside, I told the guy behind the counter about what I saw. He looked dead serious when he said, "You're lucky you left. That place has been abandoned since last winter. Nobody should have been there." A week later, I saw a local news story. Police found evidence of a makeshift camp behind that same gas station. Tents, weapons, zip ties. They said they thought a group had been living there, using the place to rob people who pulled over, maybe worse. I don't let my tank get low anymore. Ever.